Hello and welcome, and today I figured I would throw away, well not literally, but throw away my fancy paintbrushes, markers and all that kind of paraphernalia, take things back to a bit of a simpler way of doing art. And to that end I have gathered together a few basic supplies that I think should be able to make some really nice art out of. So I was inspired to do this video when I was watching one of those videos on Instagram that you've probably seen where people put blobs of paint onto a canvas and smear it across in some abstract pattern, and it looks really cool, and I thought maybe there was a way of using that technique to actually make a painting of a landscape or something like that. And then I got thinking about what Bob Ross did in taking very simple techniques that anybody can have a go at and creating these wonderful paintings out of them. And wouldn't it be great if I could figure out a way of doing something like that on a smaller scale with very simple basic tools. So if you want to have a go at something fun and creative yourself, this should be a great way of doing it for little to no cost. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, for this project I am going to be using a canvas board. I have a wooden stick, toothpick style thing, only a single one. I thought I had more of them, but one. I've got a bit of sponge. This is just like the kind of sponge you'd clean your car with. I'll chop that up. I've got some Lollypop Sticks, probably too many of them if I'm honest, but and some washi tape, and of course a load of paint. Right, so plan of action is I want to do 4 different styles of landscape. So I've gone away and done a little bit of planning, and I kind of have an idea of what I want to do. So I'm going to split this into 4 sections. Each one is going to be a little miniature landscape, and we should end up with 4 nice examples of what you can do with the materials I've just shown. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Right. Right, before we start, and if you're trying this at home, I would highly recommend doing this on a surface that you don't particularly care about, or cover it or something like that. And probably want to wear gloves because this is going to get a little bit messy, but that's half the fun. Right, my first one's going to be, the first painting I'm going to be doing is going to be a kind of a tropical beach image. I've got a reference image that I'm kind of working from. So I want a bit of a sky. I want to blob some blue down there. Boop. Titanium white, all around there. So chuck a bit of orange, and don't worry, this will all become clear very soon what exactly I'm doing here. This is where the actual sunset's going to be. Now what I'm going to do is going to take a lollipop stick, and we kind of smoosh all these colours together a little bit. Slide it across. Okay, spoiler alert, this first attempt did not go very well. So as you can see, I'm smearing across. It's actually going as planned so far. So I'm smearing across with the lollipop stick, and basically the idea is to get a nice even coat of paint, but like with all the paint all kind of marbled together, which was kind of working. And then cut a little wedge out of my sponge, and this is where it all started to fall apart. So what I later realised was that I was trying to put on too much paint, too many layers in one go, and especially the clouds. Well, these are supposed to be clouds here. I put far too much red into them, and they've just merged into the sky, into the ground, and it all just turned into one big blob. So what I did I scraped off all the paint that I could, let it dry for a couple of hours, make sure it's absolutely bone dry, and now I am trying again for a second attempt. Right, let's try that again, shall we? Okay, this time, more paint. Attempt number 2. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just leave this to dry for a few minutes. Don't want it, or don't need it absolutely perfectly dry, but just 10-15 minutes. And then we'll start layering it on top of that. So now, attempt number 2 for the beach. Same theory as before. Put in some paint onto my spongy wedge, and you can see this time it is going on a lot better. It's going on just layering on top of the paint rather than just merging into it. And I kind of liked the rough texture that I had from it. It kind of made it look kind of sandy in a natural way. Added a bit of white here for the shore, kind of to try and show some waves crashing against the shore. And some clouds, some nice fluffy clouds again, just a tip of the sponge, just lightly tapping in circular motions, and get these nice fluffy cloud effects. Really nice. And here, probably against my better judgment, I decided to take off the washi tape because I didn't need a border anymore, and it made room for the other 4 corners. Now, as we wait for the first painting to dry a bit more before we add more detail, I'm going to start on the second one. So this one's going to be several kind of cascading waterfalls. So add in a line of blue and white underneath for each one, and then kind of scooping it across with the lollipop stick, and then kind of dragging downwards, and you get these nice marbled kind of streaky white lines, just like flowing water. It's a little bit messy. I think I used a bit too much paint in this case. But it's definitely one you don't want to use too little paint, otherwise it just won't work. I'm trying to flatten out some areas here for like pools of water in between the little waterfalls. And you can see with a little bit of perseverance it does start to resemble waterfalls. It's looking a bit without any structure at the moment because I'm going to be adding rocks in later on. So it will make a lot more sense. You have to have faith. This third one, I'm going for a classic Bob Ross mountain scene. Just pretty much, if you've watched The Joy of Painting, you've seen this image. It's going to be a typical big mountain. But to start with, just doing the sky, and that's going to be a lake beneath it. So just mirroring the sky colours. And whilst all of that dries, again going on to the 4th one, this is going to be sort of a sunset scene with a beach down on down in the foreground. So using a red and blue and kind of smearing them together to get this sort of purpley sunset sky look. It's worked pretty well. Now back to the first one. We are adding a bit of black here. Going to be adding in some palm trees for the nice tropical beach, and so yeah, just just applied it straight to the canvas, and now I'm dragging it up with the lollipop stick, trying to make it look as organic as I can, and using the sponge to try and put in the leaves. This wasn't going too well until I started using my trusty toothpick to kind of scrape away the details, scrape away the prongs of the leaves, the individual parts of the leaves, and that actually worked really well. I think it kind of brought it all together. Now back to the second one, where we're going to add in the rocks. Sorry, this is all a bit kind of jumping around the place, but I think it sort of worked where I was trying to wait for areas to dry before carrying on with the rest of it. So I'm hopping around between the paintings a little bit, but that's fine. One thing I've learned with practicing these techniques is that you can always be a bit brave and just chuck in a big blob of black as a base layer, and in this case that's what I'm doing with these rocks, just sort of filling out the area with black, and then I'm going to come in later on and add in sort of highlights and detail and just make them look a bit more rounded. And the same with these mountains as well. Again, just doing solid black just to get the shape, and I'll add in highlights and texture later on. So one of the things that these Lollypop Sticks were really good at was like scraping down these mountain shapes. And carrying on with the black theme here, again just blocking out the shape of the landscape in this fourth painting before doing the beach. Or same as the first painting, beach with the sponge, a bit of yellow and white. And finishing off the landscape with more black. Now I'm coming in to add the kind of the snow on top of the mountains, and you want to kind of drag it down, but not too firmly, not too well. I guess you want to add a bit of pressure, but you want it to break over the top of the. You want to be able to see the black through. You don't want it to be just solid white. And it's not too far off what Bob Ross actually does with his palette knife. You can see it makes this really nice snow capped effect. Using the same technique here, just to catch some lights on these rocks and onto some greenery. Just a sponge and some green paint, and just lightly dab. This is where the triangular shape of the sponge can really be helpful, because if you dab lightly, and especially with the points of it pointing up, you'll naturally get some nice tree shapes, which is handy. You do need to have a nice dry layer of paint that you're painting onto. In this case, if you try and do this on top of wet paint, then it will just smudge into one colour, which has been happening a bit in this case, but yeah, it's fine. Adding some highlights to the greenery here just gives it a bit more depth and dimension. Just makes it look, a bit more 3D, a bit more real, or as real as it can look. And little smears of white along the water surface just gives the impression of it being a lake rather than just a blob of blue. And just adding some finishing details now, and that's pretty much it. All done. Back to live action carry. And there we have it. 4 little mini paintings all completed. Well, completed to a certain standard. No, I think they came out alright. I mean, considering the tools I was using, and most of it was just sort of trial and error. My favourite has to be the beach scene with the palm trees. That's probably my favourite. Really like how they came out. The little waterfalls. That's a really cool effect with the swoopy white lines going down. Kind of scraped down with the little lollipop stick. The beach one at sunset. You know, that's a bit meh. That's okay, but not so keen on that one. And the Bob Ross style mountains. Well, you can't go wrong with some Bob Ross mountains, can you? So overall, I think, although, you know, there's bits that could be neatened up, and the technique could definitely be honed a bit more, but I'm really pleased with how these came out as a little experiment, and I'm going to practice a bit more with these and see if I can get the technique down and work out exactly the best ways to go about it. And the areas of these that I'm not so happy with are just areas where I kind of tried something and it didn't work. So if I try this a couple more times, I should be able to work out those kinks. Well, in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you some inspiration. Hopefully you're going to have a go at this yourself. Just grab a few basic supplies and just nonsense you have lying around your house that you don't mind getting covered in paint, and just stick it down on a bit of paper or a bit of wood or whatever you have. MDF would be perfect as a painting service if you don't have canvas boards. And just get some cheap craft paint from wherever cheap craft paint comes from. cheapcraftpaint.com. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. But for me, that's all I've got time for. So until next time, cheerio.
It's the way you choose to live your life.